everyone. Thanks for joining us. I am joined by Tracey today. She has visited our preschool lots of times. She's from Practical Parenting and Practical Living PDX. She works on positive discipline strategies with my teachers all the time. And we often bring her for our journey learning sessions as well to help with parenting solutions, practical parenting solutions with struggles that they're having. And I know with COVID going on and us being locked up for long periods of time, things can get a little dicey, a little spicy at home. And I wanted to bring Tracey in today. She actually texted me and offered, so thank you for doing it, to provide some support for families. And what I wanted to kind of title today is, finding the balance. From the feedback that I'm getting from families, just they're having a struggle with finding the balance of their needs versus their child's needs, and just kind of want to dialogue a little bit about that and provide some strategies and support for them. So take it away.
Yeah, for sure. I was so excited. I've been seeing your YouTube channel and loving it. And I was like, oh, I want to have a conversation. Plus I miss you. So that's good stuff. And then I also want to say I have a new website. It's TraceyBiebel.com. It's got practical living and practical parenting underneath it. So if people want to find me, it's at TraceyBiebel.com. And then, yeah, I mean, we're all doing this, right? I mean, I'm living this life too. It's crazy. All of us all together all the time. It brings up all the good stuff. Like I can list the things I'm grateful for. But really in the big picture, this is just hard. And it's, all of us together all the time, and parents' needs versus kids' needs. We're trying to work, we're trying to meet our kids' needs, and we don't have all the stuff that we usually have to manage our stress. Our routines are gone. Our social connections are now on video. Like it's so hard, right? And so our stress levels are higher. And I'm talking to families, I'm doing virtual sessions, and I'm talking to families a lot about the idea of trying to meet everyone's needs all the time and how impossible that is.
Right. And that's honestly what I'm hearing the most about is, I jotted down and I sent it to you via email, like that balance of, they're tantruming all of the time. How much do I let that happen because they don't know how to deal with these big feelings versus setting boundaries and having expectations and following through with that. And it's just that constant balance, and the balance of trying to foster independence so they can breathe for 10 minutes versus wanting to be supportive for them, because 3 to 5 year olds, they need a lot of support. They're not that independent yet, so, how do we foster these things? How do we set appropriate boundaries? What is appropriate? Just your feedback on that would be great.
Yeah, I think so. So again, I'm living this life too. At my house, we have a 5, 11, 14, and 17-year-old. And so it's all the way across the age span, right? Of like what all those different needs are. And, for most of your families, it's the 3 to 5 set, right? And I'm sure some have older, some have younger at home too. But the 5-year-old at my house is, she needs a lot. And she's not getting the place in her own preschool setting to play out some of these things that she's needing to play out. The social power, I want to do it this way. Who's the boss? I want to be the boss of everything. I have big opinions, like all those things. And some of the things we've been using at home are, having a rhythm of the day is helpful. Even if every day isn't exactly the same, setting it up in the morning. Because I know for me, my partner and I have different meetings and different things, like chunks of the day that we need an hour to get something done. Or we need another block of time. So building those independent skills and having an expectation in the morning of, okay, here's going to be some time I have with you. Here's we call it independent time in her room with a timer. We use a visual timer for her to be able to see how long she's going to be in her room. And then we try and do something before and after that is connecting. So, going in her room that 5 or so minutes before she goes in and helping her, we call it getting started. Well, let me help you get started. So we'll set something up, like we use a blue silk to make a river with some blocks around it and get that started, turn a CD on, set up some other thing to get her started, get her rolling, and then set the timer so she gets a little bit of independent time, or a little bit of connection time, and then some independent time. Right. And then at the end of that, coming back in and being like, what'd you work on? How'd that go? So you get another 5 minutes or so of connection time to come out, and then maybe it's snack time. So, that's one way we do it at our house, and that I recommend people doing it, so that those kiddos can, because that building that independent time is really important. That's a really important skill for them.
Right.
I think I've talked about that, when I've come to your school before, about how important those skills are for learning how to be bored and learning how to deal with that. And that's not just for you, it's for them too.
Right. I mean, I can't agree with that more. I honestly think this time is a strange gift that we're being given in order to be able to foster that, right? Because
Yeah.
that independent skill is kind of what this age is all about.
Yes.
And we are not sharing the responsibility, or, with other caregivers or your daycare or your preschool, or, it's all on you right now. So I understand there's a big learning curve that goes with that. But I do believe that there is a gift that we have here in teaching that balance of, let me connect with you, and now I'm going to have some time for myself, and actually articulating that. I love the way that you're saying, let's connect and we'll get you started, and now this is what I'm going to do for myself. Actually articulating that is really important. You're teaching them that you have value in needing time for yourself as well, which is actually really important.
It's very important. And we do that several times a day. So, and some days look different, and some days there's more of that than others, because we have things we need to get done. Mm-hmm. So there's more of that than others sometimes. And then, so finding whatever those are. And then the other thing I've been saying to families is, decide the limits you're going to set and hold them, but don't pick every one. Like, really make it work for you. Like, if you're going to look at your day and you're going to say, okay, in the morning, I have more energy than I do in the afternoon. So I'm going to try and put more of those times when I'm going to need to set those limits, in the afternoon, not. Screen time is a big one that everybody's talking about with this, right? And I am such a fan. I've said for years and years and years, especially for the littles, like, no more than 2 hours a week. Well, that is currently out the window. Like, I don't know how we do that, right? We're home all day together. I know at my house, we are having, movie time or screen time from somewhere between, around 3:30 or 4 until about 5 or 5:30, virtually every day. And I know some families are doing more than that, which is perfectly fine, right? Because at that time of the day, everybody's spent. And if we use that during the day, and we've had other times during the day, we've done other things, I think that's perfectly fine. And then there are those kids who are plugged in for school as well, the older kids. But I think, the littler kids, if we can set up a rhythm and get to the later afternoon, and then do some screens, I think that's fine. I think people are feeling guilty about it or bad about it. No, we're all just surviving here.
No, for sure. And the YouTube videos are actually educational. Yay!
Right? There's all kinds of really fun and creative things out there that you can use for that. And so I think that's fine too. So I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of a break. But what I would suggest is that we're not like, oh my God, I'm so exasperated, now you sit in front of the TV. Instead, make it a choice and say, it looks like we're all needing a little bit of space. How about we use the TV for a little while, or the screen for a little while, to have a little bit of, screen time, alone time, or whatever, however you want to call it out. But instead of making it a thing that you're doing because you're exasperated and they see that, instead, be like, you know what, I think it's time for, I'm losing my patience. It seems like you're having a hard time finding something to do. Why don't we choose, choose an hour of a movie or something like that? So I think it's how you do it.
Agreed.
A lot of that is how you do it.
Totally. And I just want to piggyback off of that a little bit, because what you're so good at articulating, and what I want parents really to hone in on here, is the outward dialogue you have about what's happening in your brain. Like, it's healthy to say, you know what, I'm losing my patience. I'm saying things I shouldn't be saying right now. I don't like the way that feels. I think I'm going to go take a break, and I really want to encourage families to articulate that it's actually healthy. And I think that there's a lot of guilt that we surround ourselves with that. And I don't see why. I think it's actually teaching the kids to be healthy, to teach self-awareness, and to model appropriate strategies when you're losing your cool.
I agree. I agree completely. And I think, this is a good time to have a conversation. Again, at our house, we're having conversations about what things put energy in and what things take energy out, and where do you want me to use my energy? Would you like me to use my energy helping you and your sister argue over the blue marker? Or would you like to use my energy being able to go outside and play a game, or go to the park in a little while, or be able to put a movie on, or, you know, whatever thing you want to be able to do? Let's think about how we're using the energy here.
Right.
Because sibling stuff is getting tricky too, because these different ages aren't having their peers to play this stuff out with in a developmentally appropriate way. So now they're playing it out with each other. And it's hard. That is hard stuff. But it's also, like you said, a really wonderful opportunity for us as parents to be their guide in how to build healthy relationships, how to build healthy strategies for working these things out. And, you know, it goes right back to those ideas I've talked about around facilitating conflict.
Right. And so let's do a little refresher on a couple of things there.
Yeah. So, you know, again, there's on my website, traceybiebel.com, if you search for brothers and sisters, it'll come up with an article called Brothers and Sisters, you know, yep, they argue, or something like that. I can't remember the whole title. But you know, so there's conflict and it walks through it. And so what we want to be is not the judge that says who's right and who's wrong, but what we want to be is the facilitator that helps facilitate the conversation. I had one just this morning, right? So, you know, you wanted to play this game and you didn't like playing it that way. Oh, and then you hit her, and then you didn't like being hit, so you pulled her hair. Oh, that sounds hard, girls, right? Like, wow, that really didn't work out so well. Oh, and then she threw your doggies and you didn't want that, and they were under the bed and you couldn't get them, and then she stepped on your foot. You didn't like that either. That hurt your body. Yep, this was a real conversation I had. So, right, we were all having these.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? But the back and forth, and then, you know, my response was, well, what do you think you could do? How could you work together differently? We do a lot of, like, if you had a do-over, what would you do? You know, and so then they talk about what they do as a do-over, and then be like, okay, what's your plan now going forward? You know, and how do you do those things? So there's a lot of that, of how do you do this instead of getting them pit against each other. You know, tattletaling. There's telling and there's tattling, and telling is because somebody's getting hurt or there's something dangerous. Tattling is I'm trying to get the other person in trouble.
Mm-hmm. And so I just want to hit that nail on the head real hard, families, that when there is conflict, you are mirroring the way that they feel. You're empathizing with them, the way that they feel, but there's not judgment in it. You're not a referee deciding who is right and who is wrong. And that is a very difficult paradigm to shift to if most of us were not raised this way. Right. So it's a lot of practice in order to do that. But in the moment when they are very upset, they want to feel heard and understood. So if you mirror what they are telling you and saying, and leading with empathy that way from both sides.
Yes.
Because it takes two to tango. And it's not usually just one-sided. And so if you mirror that, it immediately will bring them down to a place. It will help bring them down to a place where they can think about how it could have gone differently and brainstorm solutions and problem solve, and which is incredibly powerful, because again, going back to that independence piece, we want them to learn how to be independent in conflict as well, right? They are going to need our support because they're little right now, but honestly, the Caballito group, the 5-year-old group, because of the way we do it, if you do it long enough, they get to a space where they can be quite independent in working through conflict as well.
It's pretty amazing how well they can do that. And I think a place that parents get caught a lot is wanting to find out who did the thing that was wrong, and then punishing that, right? As opposed to being like, oh, conflict in relationships is normal. It's the way we handle conflict that makes the difference, not having it, because there's going to be conflict. And so it's learning the skills for how to handle it in a healthy way that makes the difference, not having it. So the goal isn't no fighting. The goal is healthy conflict. And we're teaching that.
Sorry. So I'm just thinking for my parents right now, if they're dealing with conflict for 5 hours straight, they're about ready to pull their hair out. What do you recommend that they can do?
Well, the big thing that I say is, like, it seems like you girls have been having, I've needed to help you a bunch of times now in the last hour, right? That lets me know that you're having too hard a time playing together. So everybody is having independent time in their room for the next 45 minutes.
Great.
And then you get a break, they get a break. And of course you get the, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go to my room. I'm not going to my room, right? No, right? Like so pushed back. And you get to say, I know, that's not what you want. I can help you go, or you can go. I'll count to 3 while you decide. 1, 2. Oh, you're going. Great. Will you help me get started in my room? Yes. Yes, I will. And that means you help them get up there. They're having trouble with transitioning. This is not a punishment where you're just done, right? I know you are. Like, I know the feeling of being so done, right? But also if you just breathe for a minute and soften and help them go up to their room, they were having trouble transitioning in. Just help them get in. It's not a punishment to be in their room. It's a break time for everybody to chill out, including you. So if you feel like you're needing to punish them by you're sending them to your room, you're not sending them to their room as a punishment. You were saying, whoa, everybody needs a break. So we're all going to go to our corners, right? But it's not a punishment. If we change our mindset, it changes the climate, and then it helps them transition and come in and out of that better than going in there and being like just rah, and never being able to transition out when they come out, being like, I'm ready to go again.
Exactly. And in addition, just that shift, which is difficult to make, from a place of anger, or which really is based in fear of why is this happening? Am I not good enough as a parent? That all those deep things, if you can just shift it to, oh, this is a normal problem. And what are the healthy solutions? What do I want to teach? So those 3 questions, let's go back to the 3 questions we're always supposed to ask.
Why is this happening? What do I want to teach? Am I teaching that? Why is this happening? Could be our entire family is stressed right now. That could be the why. The why could literally be, we've been cooped up. I'm stressed about my job, about money, about not being good enough, about my relationship, about who knows what, right? All the things that all of us are worried about are weighing on us, then they're weighing on our kids. That alone could be the why. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than that. What do I want to teach? When we're all stressed, we can find kindness and compassion for each other and find peace. That could be what you're trying to teach. And then how do I teach that? By breathing, offering calm kindness as much as I can. And if I can't, then what I get to say is, I'm having a hard time finding my calm. So it seems like you are too. I'm going to help you have some time in your room so I can have some time so we can both find calm. That could be what you say.
And again, that's a shift again from the shaming, blaming, fear-based parenting style to a place of acceptance and compassion and modeling healthy, appropriate strategies so that we can enforce them to be as independent and successful with secure attachment as they get older.
That's right. And what a lot of this does for a lot of people is push the buttons of, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with my family. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong here because it wasn't like this before. I don't think they act like this with other people. I don't think they do this at school. There must be something wrong with me. I think there's something wrong with my kid because there's no way it could be this hard. It is. It is. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you told me one time when I was talking to you about my own children, you said, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not right. And I literally could tear up even at this moment because when you said that, it gave me such power to know that, oh, it's actually normal and it's okay if it's hard.
Yes, I say that a lot to families. I'm glad that resonated because I say it a lot. I say it to myself. Just because this is messy doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, let me go back to those questions. Am I teaching what I want to teach? No. Okay, well then what do I need to do? Right? Just turn that mirror around and be like, okay, what's happening with me? that this is, you know, here. I know for me, regularly during this, I'm having to, I like feel myself and I look at the kids and I'm like, why is this so hard? And I'm like, oh, because I am revved up. I am not coming at it. I'm not inviting them to calm. I'm inviting them to my own stress. That's not helpful. So then I need to take a minute, which maybe means they need to go to their room so I can take a minute, get back to where I want to be so that I can reflect back to them and invite them to the calm, invite them to the light instead of mirroring their darkness or inviting them to mirror mine.
So I just want to touch a little bit more on strategies for families who have emailed me who have said, my child cannot be independent for more than 2 to 3 minutes at a time. They just don't know how to do it by themselves. So what would you say to that?
The only way to learn how to do it is to do it. So if your child is 3, 4, 5, 6, anything above 3, they can absolutely do an hour in their room.
An hour, holy Toledo's, a whole hour.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they can do an hour in their room several times a day.
What?
That's right. So you could get up at 6 and they could be in their room from 9:30 to 10:30. And they can be in the room again after lunch from 12:30 to 1:30. And they could be in the room again in the afternoon from 3:30 to 5 or 3:30 to 4:30. And then you could put a movie on and make dinner and then everybody can go to bed. Like that is 100% reasonable for kids as young as 3.
So let's give some strategies because I think that this is a part where families are really struggling.
Yeah. So this is the place where you get them started. And what you might want to do is when they're just starting is you might want to start with 20 minutes at a time. Mm-hmm. Go check in with them for 5 or 10 minutes and then give them another 20 minutes. Go check in with them for 5 or 10 minutes and give them another 20 minutes so that you can build the skills for doing that. And if they come out and they come out and they come out, each time they come out, then the timer gets started again.
And okay. I heard it. The timer gets started again if they come out, and we have to follow through with it because they're little scientists gathering that data and they just want to see what's going to happen.
That's right. And here's one of those places where sometimes crying is the sound of learning.
Say that again.
Again. Sometimes crying is the sound of learning. Just because it's messy doesn't mean it's wrong. And the other one here is short-term pain for long-term gain. So that yelling, screaming, banging on the door, kicking the door, throwing stuff in the room sound that happens for 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes 20, is fine. It's perfectly fine. And if you need to, you can stand outside that door and hold it closed, quietly, calmly. And if you can't do that, then you can put a lock on that door so that you can walk away, pull yourself together. It's their room. They're in their room. They are safe. They are fine. It's a nice place you created for them. It's not a dark basement. It's not a punishment. They are learning how to be there. If they were in their car seat and crying and wanted to get out, you would say, that's too bad. You need to be safe. There's all these things. It's just a clean, clear limit. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. And if it keeps you from yelling at them and screaming at them and feeling like your head is going to explode, then that is the best alternative. Some kids need that clean, clear physical boundary to be able to learn how to do that. Some kids don't. Some kids can stay in the room with the door wide open and stay in there and have a big emotional expression and still stay in the room. And some kids need that physical boundary to help them do that until they learn how. Right. So it's a tool. It's a tool that you can use. And, some families are really uncomfortable with that. Some families aren't. But I think that if the alternative is yelling at your kid, then that's a good choice.
Mm-hmm. And so I just want to reiterate a little bit. So I heard scaffolding. So if they can only do 2 minutes right now, then start with 10 and let them do it for 10 minutes and then go check in on them and do another 10 minutes. So scaffolding is taking away little steps at a time until they're completely independent. Build it to 20, build it to 30.
Yes.
I think that's really great. And then I just want to also reiterate, when we think about those 3 questions, when we go, why is this happening? Well, we really maybe haven't given them the opportunity to learn that skill. And for some kids, it's harder for them to learn than others, and it will require a little bit more scaffolding.
Yes.
What do I want to teach? I want them to be independent. I want them to have security in knowing that I'm there for them when they need me, but they also can be completely independent and be happy on their own and secure on their own, because that's what we want for them in the long run. So the sooner we teach these skills to them, the better off in the long run, right?
Yes. And the thing I want to pick up on, you just spoke to, is the wants versus needs.
Okay.
They want you all the time. They need to learn skills for independence. They want to eat, goldfish crackers only for food. They need to have healthy nutrition. They want you to sleep with them at night. They need to learn how to self-soothe and have independent sleep. So as kids get older, I think one of the hard things about being a preschool parent versus a parent of an infant is as a parent of an infant, there's so many needs and not as many wants. And as kids get older, that ratio changes. And as parents, we need to catch up with them, so that we need to start asking, is this a want or a need?
Right. And I think that's a major shift that parents are just realizing. They're so used to them being so dependent that they just continue maybe to give and give and give. And I'm getting emails where my parents are depleted. They're giving way past the level that they should be giving, and it's making them cranky, and then they're reacting, and then they think their kid is mean. Yes. And it just goes down a whole rabbit hole, right? And it's because you've crossed your own boundary of what's good for you. And I really just want to encourage parents to really pay attention to yourself. And if you see that you're the one where your shoulders are next to your ears, and you're the one that's being a little lippy, then you're the one that needs the break.
That's right.
That is okay.
Yes, it is. And so I think that's where, when we take a look at, that other question of is this a want or a need? If it's just a want, then one of the things that we teach as parents is the discomfort of tolerating wanting something and not being able to have it. And that's a really important skill. So that's something we're teaching here too, is just because your child wants you to be with them all the time doesn't mean they need you to be with them all the time. They want you to entertain them, but they need to learn how to entertain themselves. And so really checking in with yourself and saying, am I meeting too many wants? Because I don't have to. And in fact, I'm not helping my child by doing that. And I'm certainly not taking care of myself. Because
guilty.
Oh, yeah. I've done that too.
For sure, that's a struggle for me, you guys. And so I know my families, and I know which ones I'm thinking of in my brain right now that are cut from the same cloth, and that is related to us feeling in charge of their happiness. And we're not.
No. And in fact, we put happiness on a pedestal, and we need to take it down, because we've decided happiness is the thing we want for our children. And what I want for children and what I want for people is actually just the ability and the belief that they can tolerate whatever emotion they're having, because they all come and go, just like weather. The emotions come and go for adults and for kids. And so if all we want for them is happiness, wow, we're putting a huge burden on them, and we are going to regularly feel like we have failed, because that's not even possible for anyone at all.
And again, dialoguing about all of that right now is critical for them to know that they are allowed to love themselves no matter how they feel and what they're doing at any time.
Yes. I'm going to, if anyone is looking for a book to read, because we all have so much time, right? No, some people do, not with kids. Those people without kids, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing with all my time. I'm like, oh, I have none, right? But if you do happen to have time for a book or an audiobook or anything, Running on Empty by Jonice Webb would be a wonderful one to read right now, because it talks about the experience of learning what messages we got in our own original families about emotions and feelings, and what we're allowed to do with them, and who's we're supposed to meet before our own needs and all those things. It would be a really great book. Now, if anyone has time or energy to actually take one in, it would be a really great one to explore this experience, because it really is an opportunity. I'm not trying to silver lining it at all, because there's lots that's really awful and hard about this. But there are opportunities within it, and it's something I call useful pain, right? This is useful. It can be useful pain. Because when things are this uncomfortable, it makes us look at stuff. We can't not look at it. We can't put it under the rug. We can't shove it away. And so a lot of the dynamics that families have and patterns they have are getting played out all day long, every day. And that's hard to look at.
Yeah.
But it's also the kind of discomfort that makes you want to change something. And that's useful.
Mm-hmm.
That's useful. That's a good thing to be able to see those patterns and say, oh, I don't want this to continue. Because those patterns were there before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't in our faces all the time.
Right. That's brilliant. And I have just a couple of very specific problems that have emailed to me. So an example of a child who does not want to go outside. It's been so beautiful out. It's, you know, the parents want them to get outside, and it's just a battle for them to get to go outside. Just an example of how you would deal with that.
I'd say, oh, hey, I'm looking outside. It's beautiful out. In about 5 minutes, we are all going to go outside. We're going for a walk. We're doing something. No, I don't want to. I hear you. I'm going to put my shoes on. I'm going to get going. I'm going to get my tote bag to put your shoes in if you don't want to put them on. And then we're going, right? And I would just empathize while you physically pick that child up and go outside.
Okay. Yeah, they say that, you know, when they get outside, they're fine. It's just the matter of getting.
Don't negotiate and spend a lot of time doing it. Just like move it along. Don't spend 20 minutes talking them into going outside. Just pick them up and take them out there. They're still little enough to do that.
Okay, another short example is I have a parent who has a child who was sleeping independently in their bed, but now that all this has started happening, they have fears and things like that. So she's trying to struggle. Now they're coming back in the bed, and
so here's the problem with that, is that now we have validated the fears by changing the rules, right? We can empathize with the fears and say, that's really hard. But one of the things we want to learn is how to go to sleep without it. Something we can do, something we have at our house, because I have a couple of kids with a lot of worries. We have a worry box, and it holds your worries for you. And so we write a few of them down, fold them up, put them inside the worry box. It doesn't make your worries go away, but the box will hold them for you while you sleep.
Great.
But we sleep in our own beds.
Awesome.
Even when we're worried, even when we're scared.
Thank you, Tracy. And then the last piece that I just wanted to touch on are, how can parents parent themselves during this time?
Oh, yeah. So that book that I recommended is exactly that. And one of the things is to, much like we empathize and validate with our kids with their feelings, we need to do that for us. Like we need to do the same thing we do for them for ourselves. So when we're feeling all those feelings and that stress and our shoulders up by our ears, we need to be like, yeah, no wonder I'm feeling this way. This is a lot, right? All thoughts and feelings are okay. All behaviors are not. So we need to validate our thoughts and feelings and have any of them be okay. You know, I've had my own fantasies of being like, I wonder what it would be like if I lived all by myself. I'd like to live all by myself now. Remember when I lived by myself? Remember when there weren't so many people? And then I'm like, well, of course I feel that way. Of course I'm fantasizing about that. Of course my brain is going there. I don't really want that. In this moment I do, but in the big picture I don't. But it makes sense that I'm imagining that or feeling that. Okay, now what? And so the relief of allowing ourselves to have whatever thoughts and feelings come up and have that not mean something bad about us is fine. Being like, I wish all these people would go away. Perfectly fine feeling, right? Or, you know, whatever that is, or if it's the, I feel like I'm a terrible person. I feel like I'm a terrible parent. I'm not a good partner. I'm not a good employee. Like I'm not doing any of the things I'm supposed to do. I'm not motivated. I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to do work. That all makes sense. That's not a comment on your character, who you are as a person. It's just a feeling or a thought that's coming through. So allowing that to be true and not having it be a judgment on your character, who you are as a person, goes a long way. So, you know, Brene Brown talks about act like you love yourself. So talk to yourself like you love yourself. Feed yourself like you love yourself. Move like you love yourself. Love other people like you love yourself. You know, and then the other soundbite I like from Melanie Beattie, all these people, right, is you can't simultaneously hold healthy boundaries for yourself and take care of someone else's feelings.
Okay, again, say that again.
You cannot simultaneously set healthy boundaries for yourself and take care of someone else's feelings. That doesn't mean be a jerk. That does not mean be a jerk, but it does mean saying, I need a break right now. I can't do that. I need this child to go to their room so that I can go sit on the porch for 10 minutes. And the child is going to be fine, and I don't have to take care of their feelings right now. They're in a safe place I've provided for them, their room. While I go take 10 minutes and calm down so I can take care of me and come back to them. That's a gift to them and you, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Thank you so much, Tracey, for chatting a little bit today and supporting our families during this difficult time. So grateful for you as always. And I hope maybe we can do it again sometime, because I think that this is incredibly challenging, and just hearing your little sound bites means the world to the family. So thank you again for doing it.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for having me. And I'm just wishing everybody well.
Thanks so much. Okay, guys, we'll see you soon. Bye.